Interviewing Richael Faithful from the William and Mary Progressive. My first question is, why was the particular title chosen for the publication? What did you want readers to take away from the name The Progressive?
Actually, we deliberated over a whole semester about what the name should be. Mostly, the purpose behind making the magazine was just to show some type of leftist viewpoint. So anything that just connotated like leftist or progressive or socially liberal, something like that, would qualify. So it really was just we had a list of names.
Can you remember any of the other options that were on the table?
Someone wanted like the tsunami, something really silly, but just didn't tell a reader much. So we wanted something simple, and we wanted something that just indicated to a reader immediately that this was a leftist publication. So we narrowed it down from the list. That was pretty much it.
Okay. How important do you think objectivity is when it comes to a publication, a campus publication? I mean, is it necessary at all? That's one of the things we're discussing in class, is when you look at the media, it seems like there's always two sides to a story in the way that it's reported. Do you think this is the case? Do you think that objectivity is very important?
It can be. I think there are two qualifications. First, with Progressive, we represent ourselves as a liberal opinion editorial quarterly magazine. So there really is no secret about again, the purpose of the publication or the viewpoints we represent. When you're doing more mainstream like news reporting, I think it's important to at least not be so evident about your bias. But the second qualification to that, I think, comes with some of the new updated like journalism standards that are becoming more popular, which is objective is less important as being fair. And I think that's a good idea. Objectivity, one could argue, is not easy to achieve. It's something you can't achieve, but you can be fair and you can be balanced in what you report, whether that's either an opinion article or a news report. I think that's a better standard to have than just being objective.
How's the Progressive funded?
Yeah, unlike some of our Republican or right-wing counterparts, we are funded through, I guess, an endowment. And we started off, though, being funded solely by the school. We received student activity, like seed funding, for a new organization, which is available to any organization that seeks to find it, that's new, and missed the funding cycle for the previous year. That's how we started, but then we ended up applying to the Center for American Progress. It's a think tank at DC. They have a new office called Campus Progress, and the sole goal of that office is to make sure that publications like the William and Mary Progressive exist, and that is they were concerned that a lot of the, I guess, political influence in Washington was being infiltrated on a campus level. Not in the same way, at least. I guess more conservative people did it. They had and they still have a very sophisticated system of passing information and events and messages, which the left doesn't have. So they're trying to counteract that. So they fund about 20 different publications throughout the country at different campuses, which are left-leaning, and we're just one of them. And we ended up we've been fully funded the last 2 years. Probably will not seek funding next year, because I think we're going to scale back our distribution and just rely on school funding. But we got $2,000, which was more than we actually needed to publish what we publish, because we're only quarterly.
So you plan on being funded by the school next year?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. Does that affect, I guess will that affect the content of your publication, that you're less independent from the campus?
That's a good question. Probably not, only because what we write tends to be pretty consistent with, I guess, administrative views of what someone ought to publish. we're not incredibly radical. They're just kind of your mainstream, like, opinion editorials and essays. So not in that regard. If we were to do something or to cover something more controversial, that could be a problem. That's one of the reasons that we weren't sure whether we wanted to join a pub council too, because in that other editors, in addition to the administration, have like content review and some control. And although there are benefits to joining the pub council because it gives credibility to your publication, gets some longevity to it, and also I think creates infrastructure around it, which are good like long-term goals. The risk of being censored or otherwise being distracted by people who don't like your decision making could be cumbersome. So we debated about getting involved with pub council. We pursued it for a couple of years with no response from pub council. We're one of many publications or media on the list to join, and we're near the top of the list now, but I'm not sure even if we're going to pursue it at this point. We've been quite fine without it, and I think given our goals, we'd be fine without it too.
There are numerous issues that are consistently pursued in the Progressive. What impact do you think that it has when it comes to these issues? And I know that most of them are off-campus issues, but sometimes you've addressed things like the William & Mary Cross controversy. So what, if any, impact do you think the Progressive has?
That's interesting. Yeah, it's depended on the editorial staff. When we founded it, we wanted to have emphasis on campus events. That's in part because one of the reasons we started it had to do with the fallout from the Sons of Liberty bake sale that took place my freshman year. And that was about affirmative action. And what happened, what we saw in the mainstream publications and then the remnant, which is libertarian conservative publication, is that there wasn't balance on the other side. So that's why we created the Progressive, in part because we saw that that was the voice that was missing. So since then, the earlier editorial board wanted emphasis on here and local stuff. But as we evolved, it was hard getting student writers to form opinions and write about stuff locally. So we gave some more leeway about doing national, international stuff. But we always stressed, at least when we were at staff meetings, we're not Time, we're not Newsweek, we're not the Wall Street Journal. No one really wants to hear our opinions necessarily on national, international stuff. So let's comment on stuff we know. And some people understood that, some people didn't. So I think we've covered a range of stuff. We're not exclusively campus-driven like some of the other publications, like external publications. But still students, especially student writers, an opportunity to do things that are happening. But often what we make people do if they're going to write national, international pieces is draw it back to campus somehow. Whether that leads to a particular group that's raising awareness about an event or has some type of impact on students somehow. We made it always draw it back because we're not experts. No one wants to hear our opinion just for the sake of hearing our opinion. And no one really had necessarily, no one has the training to be like the most outstanding writer that you would distinguish yourself in anyway. So I think that's important to always bring it back to campus, or else who's going to read it and who wants to read it, right?
What changes have occurred since the conception of the Progressive, and do you think these have been positive or negative changes? And also, well, I'll wait for the next part, actually.
Yeah, there's been a number of changes, which I think have been ultimately neither positive or negative, but just explorative. We started out, it was very like nepotistic grassroots effort. So we just grabbed friends we knew. They became writers, they contributed, we created a staff, and then we published quarterly. What they tried to do this year, which didn't work as well, is get away from the staff aspect, because we had some people who were better staff members than others, and that created issues. So instead they wanted to do like a submission type type of like submission cycle.